Savvy Young Professionals, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. This is going to be a very interesting show today, especially as we roll into 2018 and we start talking about the thing that makes the world go round. We're talking about money today. My guest is Elle Coleman. She is the founder and CEO of FCL Personal Finance Coaching, forever changing lives. But don't let that face fool you. This woman who says what she means and keeps it 100% real. Elle mixes her knowledge of money management with her spunky personality to successfully coach her clients through financial freedom programs that will ultimately change their lives forever. Elle also holds a Bachelor's of Arts from the University of Texas at Dallas and a Master's of Business Administration from Texas Women's University. Her money management foundation started at the age of 13 when she wanted to afford her own cell phone. You know, we have to have those cell phones at that age. Since then, she has found her calling of being a financial coach, and she is helping women everywhere take back their power and find their way to financial freedom. So today you are in for a big treat. Welcome to the show, Elle.
Thank you so much, Tanita. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about Girlfriend's Budget, because I kind of told you a little bit before the call how I found out about you. But like, what kind of got you in that mode where you said, you know what, I need to build this platform talking about this issue?
Man, you know what? It starts back like years before Girlfriend's Budget even was born. I was always taught by my family to be good with money. That was so important, to save, to make sure your bills are paid on time. Like those were things that were talked about in our household all the time. So fast forward to when I'm, kind of a young girl in my early 20s, I say mid-20s. I meet my partner, now wife, and we had some discussions about money, and I always try to keep it 100% real with everybody that I talk to about finances. Like, it's hard, and a lot of people don't know. So they don't know, they were never taught about how to manage their finances. So that was an issue between my wife and I when we first started dating. And I told her, I was like, look, we gotta get on the same page with this, because I don't want to be in a long-term relationship where we are fighting about money. Like, that's not where I want to be at. So we did. And you know what? Through it, she really grasped it. Like, she's even better than me now. She's like, babe, we got to save here. We got to save there. We can do this. We can do that. Put that in the budget, And it's like so fun now. But she also told me, she was like, you have a gift. You as a young Black woman have a gift to teach other women, or whoever, anybody, but especially women, how important it is to manage your finances. So she kind of got me into it. Started with like presentations in the living room, like making my friends listen to this presentation about finances, because y'all need to get your stuff together, things like that. So fast forward, I was like, I want to create a blog. I want to make a blog so that I can reach more women, not just my friends in the living room putting on a presentation. Like, I want to reach the world and allow women to understand the importance of taking your power back through managing your money. So that's that. Wow, in a nutshell.
That is a really interesting story. I love the idea that, you were really upfront, with your then girlfriend, now wife, about what type of relationship you wanted to be in financially. I think so much, we talk about, we want this house and these many kids and this car, and I want to live here, but we don't kind of talk about how we're going to get there. And I think that is really, really, really important and so necessary. So, kudos to both of you for being open enough to have those conversations early on, because I know they're kind of tough.
Yes.
So now, what I'm thinking about, there feels like this sense of urgency to really get our hands around finances. But why do you think the feelings have changed about money over the past couple years?
I don't necessarily know if the feelings have changed about money, but I do feel like people now, to be honest, people are very, they can be showy. People think that what they see on TV, the reality TV shows, I watch Atlanta Housewives, I watch, I love them. But at the same time, we in our minds think, oh my gosh, look at their house they're living in. Oh my gosh, look at those cars that they're driving. Oh, her weave is always on point, you know what I mean? And you think about this and it's like, oh, they have all this money and that's what having money looks like. But no, that's not what having money looks like. That's what spending money looks like. But having money, like having stacks in your bank account and having investments and owning things and not, having or trying to have as little debt as possible. Those are the things that are like really important, but that is not what is portrayed to us as what's cool or what's happening. You know what I mean? Like what's happening is wearing all the purple labels and, having all the red bottoms you can have or rocking your Michael Kors and Gucci purses. And there's nothing wrong with that if you can afford it. But if you cannot afford it and that's what your priority is, then that's really where the problems come in.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. So you think that is more of an issue or what we're seeing more of what it looks like or the narrative, the story is changing of what it looks like to have money.
Yes.
Okay. I could definitely agree with that. I know we don't really think about when we're watching TV that there's a budget, there's a production crew, there's a stylist, there's people there to make you see this person as something that sometimes they're not even. I remember thinking about back in the day when that whole situation happened with TLC. I'm young. I'm thinking they must be millionaires. They must have all this money. Yeah. Yes. And not really realizing that they're, the labels and the people that were involved in the business of TLC, they made it their business to make them look successful. Exactly. And, we don't think about that. We don't realize how much money is spent for us to actually go out and spend money.
Yes, exactly.
Especially nowadays with sponsors and for all we know, the stuff that everybody's wearing, they could be being paid to wear that. And we don't even know.
Have no idea.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. Very good point. So, we're talking about, and this is really interesting. It's about to be 2018 and probably by the time this is released, it will be 2018. Mm-hmm. And I think, it's really interesting and we all do it, but we get to the end of the year and it's just like, oh man, I'm going to change my life on December 31st. And it's going to be a new life and totally different than what I've been doing for the past, 15, 20 years of my life. Why do you think people get reflective around the new year? And then why do you think that energy does not carry on to every year?
Well, I think people get excited about the end of the year because it's a closing of a chapter, and it's like, okay, a brand new chapter is starting, new year, new me, it's going to be different this year and I'm really going to make some serious changes. And that's great to have that, but at the same time, as the year goes on, that enthusiasm, that excitement, it just fizzles away kind of, and people fall back into the same habits of what they're used to doing. And that's why it is sometimes difficult for individuals to start a budget because it takes discipline. And you have to have somebody that's going to hold you accountable, especially if you are not the one that's going to hold yourself accountable. You have to have somebody there that's going to be like, girl, don't you spend that money on that dress. you don't need that right now. Like, let's think about it. Let's think about what's important. Like, you need to have that person that's going to be the voice in the back of your head. And all my clients that I coach one-on-one, they always say that when they're about to buy something that they probably know they shouldn't be buying, they hear my little voice in the back of their head. And I'm like, good, I'm glad. I want you to hear me talking to you because you know what I mean? You know what your priorities are. You know what your goals are. But you also know that it's going to take discipline to get there. Just like with anything. If you're working out, you want to lose weight, you want to eat healthier. It's baby steps. You have to take at least the steps to get there. But yeah, it's just sticking with it. And that's that's the goal. It's just to stick with it. Even if you make mistakes, even if you fall off for a little bit, the goal is to get back up and just keep going. And that's really what it's about. That's it. It's just keep going. You just keep going. That's it. That's it.
So if I am, I guess, starting off the year, or, I'm at this point where I'm planning, right? I'm supposed to be doing the new thing. Can you give us some ideas of like, what are the first things you would do if you were going to set out to have a successful financially successful 2018? What are the first couple steps you take?
That's a great question. First things first, I would write down what all my bills are. So all my expenses, everything that I pay for on a monthly basis, write it out. Write out how much each one of those things are. Like, I'm talking everything. And then you calculate how much you make a month. So sometimes people get paid weekly or bi-weekly or monthly. So you do the math to figure out how much is actually hitting your bank account per month. Subtract that amount, that your expenses, from what you make. And if there's money left over, then you're doing good. You're doing pretty good. There probably can be more. So at that point, I would look to see what things can be eliminated. What are things that I absolutely don't need? Do I absolutely need Hulu, Netflix, and everything else that I'm paying for, all these entertainment channels? Do I absolutely need to get my hair done every single week, or get my nails done every single week? Maybe I can do it once every 2 weeks or once a month. So find things that you can cut out of your budget or cut back on. And then that gives you more money to play around with. So at that point, you figure out a way to start saving. And so those would be the things. Write it down, subtract it, figure out what you can cut back and what you could cut out. That's number one. Okay. That's the basics of starting a budget, pretty much.
Getting real with yourself about what you need and what you don't need. And it's so funny because, we mentioned, nobody's really paying crazy amounts for cable anymore. A lot of people don't pay cable. But when you think about, if you have YouTube Red and Netflix and Hulu and another $10 service,
Amazon
Prime, yeah, you're getting up there to the $50 and $60 a month at a $10 service if you have 5 or 6 of them. So I think that's a really good point, because even me personally, those type of things have creeped into my budget where I'm like, I didn't realize I was spending $30 a month on subscription services, just because they're so small, you don't really see them.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't think about it. You're like, it's just $5. It's just $10. But it adds up. Just like you said, it adds up. And over time, it adds up even more. So think about the $10 that you thought you would have been paying is now $60 per month, and multiply that by 12. I mean, it just starts to add up all over the place, and you're not even thinking about it. So, yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit with my next question, because this one's more about just you personally. And then I think it gives some insight, I guess, to if someone decided they wanted to start a budget. When you started budgeting, when you got, and you started pretty young, so I don't know what you remember about it, but when you started really being serious about your budget, what were some of the things that you learned that you didn't even think you would learn on that journey?
Oh man, so many things just about yourself, really about self-discipline, about, what are all my friends doing? My social circle, they're going out, they're going to the club, they're buying the bar, we're buying a new outfit every week because we can't go to the club in the same outfit, like those kind of things. And it's like, wow, like I have no money saved. I don't have anything set aside. So what's going to happen if the car that I'm driving around to all these clubs breaks down and I can't get it fixed? Or what's going to happen if I lose my job? Then I have to go back home. Or I have to try to stay with friends or something like that. Like, I wanted to be independent, self-sufficient. And that's really what I learned about myself. And that's what I'm hoping to teach other women through Girlfriend's Budget is that you can be self-sufficient. You can be independent. You don't have to be looking for this person or that person to take care of you, or borrowing money from your friends or your coworkers or your mom or your dad or whoever, your sisters, siblings. You don't have to do that because you can take care of yourself through money management. And it's so much less of a stressor. You don't have to worry about where something's going to come from. You don't have to worry about how am I going to pay that bill. You don't have to worry about, oh, these bill collectors keep blowing up my phone because I owe them money. You don't have to worry about that when your financial stuff is under control. I'm trying not to curse.
Oh, go ahead. Sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah, yes, sometimes it is. So yeah, that's really what I learned. It's just really independence, like girl power for real. Like, the Beyonce songs, like Who Run the World and independent women and all that. Like, that's what it's about, is managing your money and taking care of your finances, because ultimately that's where your power is in money. Yeah. Everything, the world is ran by money. That's your power.
Wow. Yes. The world is definitely run by money. And it's really interesting that you say that, because, I think we all have those times in our life where we say the things like, well, it doesn't really matter. And what really matters is that, I have this and that, and it's not about money. It's about, but then you get that bill and you're like, wait a minute now.
Yeah. 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 I totally believe in love and peace and Zen. I am there. It is about those things. It's about finding your peace. It's about finding your balance. It's about giving love to others. That is what it's about. But at the same time, it's about them coins too.
Yeah.
Because you can't pay a bill with love. I'm sorry. You can't do that. You can't pay a bill with Zen. You're not. It's not going to happen.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I know. I haven't tried it yet, but I know it. I know that the moment that I write a note to my bill people that are billing me and say, yeah, I just want to send you all my love in return for my lights. I don't think that's going to work.
No, it's not.
So from your experience, you just being a financial coach and working in this industry, what have you really noticed in young professionals that you just kind of wish, I wish I could just stand on the mountaintop and say this to this demographic about finances and money and budgets?
Yes, I would say budgeting is cool and start now. Like, you have to do it now, early, because when you get up in your older age and you start getting married and having kids, like, things really start to get a lot harder. So to learn those skills now while you're young, to start saving now while you're young, to start putting money in your 401k now while you're still young, like, do it right now, because you don't want to wait until you're in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s, and then you're starting to think about retirement, because you've missed a window of opportunity where you could really have built a strong financial foundation. And not to say that it can't happen later in life, it definitely can, but it's so much easier when you start young.
Yeah, that's definitely wise words. I agree with that time. That's the one thing that you can't get back, but it's one of the biggest advantages when it comes to life. If you have more time, you're just ahead of the game naturally. So I agree with that. And I'm just happy that that's one of the messages that, you want to send. And I think, I agree with you in the sense that, it's not that it can't happen later on, but, just from logic, if you start earlier, you just have a leg up on everything. Okay. So my next question is, this question is kind of, I don't know, it's something that I've been thinking about, because I hear a lot of people talk about, well, you need to work this job, and, if you need to, then you can side hustle your way to the top. And, I don't want to talk about my personal beliefs about that, because I might come off a little bitter, but I do want to know, I do want to know what you think about that. Do you feel like, that you need to think about working in an industry or career that's going to pay you the money so you can do these things? Or do you believe in, just side hustle your way to the top? Everybody has different theories, and I'm just curious about yours.
I mean, I really think it depends on the person, to be honest. I mean, there's people out there who will hustle. They will stay on their mama's cot in the living room and, do what they got to do for a time period in order to hustle and get to where they need to be. They'll work in their garage. They'll do, they'll make the serious sacrifices, because there will be some serious sacrifices if all you're trying to do is hustle to make it. But they'll do it, and they're willing to do it. And if that's the kind of person that you are, then I say go for it. But if you are a planner, which I'm very much so a planner, I would work. I would work in a job or a career that you can at least deal with. I feel like for the time being, I'm not saying that it's going to be like your dream job. It may not be, but on the side, yes, be working on your dreams. Take the money that you're making from this job that you're going to 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever it is, and invest in yourself and do what you have to do on the side until you can get and reach a position where that's all you're doing and that's what you love doing. So I really think that it just really depends on the person, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody has different personality types, but one of the things that I have had experience with is just sometimes I think not just young professionals, but just people in general, they get used to that lifestyle of, I'm basically gonna work this job that's maybe not paying me the best, and then I'm gonna side hustle my way to, some level of success. And I think I'm kind of like, I feel both ways. I think that you should do what you love, but you need to be smart. I'm the type of person, if I'm going to work a job that I don't like, you're going to have to pay me. And that's the trade-off for me. The trade-off is the higher income. I'd rather do it that way. And still, the side hustle, like you said, that's just your personality. Me, I like to have a whole bunch of stuff going on. And, I like to be able to do the things that I want to do. So, the side hustle, that doesn't, I don't think that's a bad idea, but I do think that what I've learned is, that if you're going to stay in a situation long term, 5, 10, 15 years or whatever, make sure that you can get at that next income level, because eventually I would like to stop working. So that's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, how can I retire with the most money? Which leads me to my next question. We are like in this really interesting workspace where a lot of people, especially in that 20 to 35-ish kind of category, they're not thinking about working till retirement. Like, they want to retire early, and they probably will. What do you think about that? Do you see it being a situation where people can retire early, or do you think that we're just, gonna have to, work until the wheels fall off?
Oh no, I absolutely think that, this younger generation is, we're smart. I think we're smart. We're savvy. We're tech savvy. We like things fast paced. That's how we grew up, is in a fast paced kind of world. So of course we want to retire early and enjoy the fruits of our labor. I think it's a little bit an old school way of thinking, is to basically work till you die. Like, I think that's it's just an older way of thinking. But with this younger generation, they're wanting more. They're wanting more, and that's what I appreciate about it. Like, they're wanting to do more. They're wanting to experience more, and that's great. That's great.
That is very true. And so with that being said, how do you actually do that? Because, we're talking about saving and money, and, it's funny because there was this kind of article floating around last year, maybe the year before, and it was talking about if you want to save money, then, you kind of have to basically eat like, what was it? Avocado toast or something like that. I can't remember
ramen
the
noodles.
Yeah. And I think, realistically, I don't know, number one, how healthy that is. And just in general, how do you can't really get through 20 years of work not having fun. So what are some of your recommendations as a person who is really serious about budgeting and saving money, but you're still very active and want to live a certain lifestyle and enjoy that time that you have off and that money that you're making? What are some of your tips and ideas for kind of living both worlds?
So the first thing is once you get through the hard part of the money management, the initial part, you really get to live and experience the joys of your sacrifice. So honestly, once you get rid of the majority of your debt and you're able to manage your money better, then you'll have more funds left over to be able to do things. A lot of the times people's budgets are so stretched to the max that they have no room left over. There's no wiggle room. There's no way to do anything. But what I like to do, what we do in our household, is that we budget for one, we grocery shop. That's number one. We don't eat out a lot. It's nice, to go out and maybe happy hours where the drinks are a little bit cheaper and you can get some finger foods and things like that. But we're not just dropping like $60, $70 on a, nice restaurant to go out and on the town just to spend money. No, we grocery shop. We make meals at home. And that's a huge money saver right there. We make drinks at home. I can make probably about 4 drinks at home that I would probably pay at, somewhere out to eat, So things like that, you have to sacrifice in some ways and be able to enjoy other things. So once your money is freed up, you have enough money, like you're saying, if you're working a job, you're going to get paid, which I totally agree with. And that money that you are getting paid with, just manage it well. Pay your bills. Then you can also put in things like traveling. You have to plan though. That's the thing. People want to budget, but they want to do things instantaneously. You have to plan in order to get there. You can't just be like, okay, I want to do this right now. If your budget doesn't allow it, then it just won't allow it. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just may be postponed.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite tools to use to plan? Because you're right. I'm definitely that person. I am a Gemini, for all my listeners who don't know that. And I'm not a huge planner. So, but I do like to enjoy and do things, but I am definitely spontaneous. So what are some of the tools and resources that you use, or would recommend for those people who are kind of like me?
Mm-hmm. So one, have a little bit of spending money, splurging money, budget that in, put that in your budget. I recommend for all my clients, if you get paid biweekly, that $200 of splurging money is enough to make it through 2 weeks. If everything is paid for, all your bills are already paid for, you have gas in your car, you have food in your refrigerator, like there's nothing else that you absolutely need. So this is just spending money on things that you want, quote unquote. So if you have that little F off money, that's what my clients call it, because you're basically just effing this money off. You're just throwing it out the window pretty much, because it's not anything that you're spending on that you absolutely need to survive. So that money, then you can go and do what you want. If you want to spend it on a concert, do so. If you want to go and do that fun and luxury dinner, then do it, but it has to be still planned in the budget. It has to be in the budget. So whatever you're going to do, even if it's instantaneous, at least have that money set aside to where you can do it. That's what I would recommend.
I'm thinking about just the idea of the fresh start. And I know there's a lot of people who are listening right now who are just like, Elle, girl, I ain't got it to start with. I don't even know. I'm not, I'm barely making it. I don't have any extra money to save or do anything with. What do you tell those people? Because I know that there are people that are literally saying these words as they're listening to us talk right now.
Yeah. So that's when I would really say evaluate your lifestyle, evaluate what's going on. Is it that you're just not making enough? If sometimes you're just not making enough, and that's where the side hustles have to come in. Maybe if you do have something of value that you could possibly sell, we all got junk sitting around, or we know family or friends that have junk sitting around that have a garage sale. Find smart ways to make some money. That way you can at least, especially if it's debts that's killing your budget because you're having to pay off your car note is super high, or you have student loans that are super high, or you have credit card debt that's super high. And all of this is, you're trying to figure out how to pay towards this, or your rent is too high. Maybe you need a roommate. I say find certain ways to figure out how you can decrease your expenses. That's where you have to start. I mean, even if it's just the bare minimum, there has to be a sacrifice at some point, and then figure out ways you can make more money, because you're never going to be able to survive if the funds that you make is not enough to cover even your basic necessities. So that's where to start. Assess yourself and your situation, what your financial self is looking like.
But one of my questions has a lot to do with couples. And I'm telling you, I already know we're going to have to do a part 2 of this. But this might serve as a little teaser to the part 2 of our interview. But I'm sure it's difficult merging finances with people. Where do you think people should start if they're in that phase of thinking about a long-term relationship or marriage, or just moving in with someone, even be it a roommate? What is the number one tip that you would recommend to somebody who is about to be merging their finances with someone?
Well, first of all, you have to know the type of person that you're dealing with. Is this person a super spender, or is this person more frugal that you don't have to really worry about if your account's going to be overdrawn, if you have a joint account with this person, or whatever the case may be. So that's first and foremost, like, know who you're dealing with before you even think about merging your finances, especially if you've worked really hard to get to where you are financially at the current time. Then think about it. You definitely need to think about that. Number 2 is, if you are merging your finances, start slow. Number 1, I would say get a joint account to pay bills, and bills only. That's it. So that way, you know what's coming out of the account. They know what's coming out of the account. There's nobody spending money on shoes or clothes or food or whatever. It's just bills only. And then as you start to grow in your financial relationship with each other, you can possibly think about adding in a savings account or adding in another checking account or something to that nature. But I always do recommend for couples to, 1, have a joint account for bills, 2, have your own separate checking account. And that is where you're spending money, your little something goes in, because it's really hard to have a joint account and both people are just spending out of that account and nobody's really like keeping record of who's spending what. And next thing you know, it's negative. And that's not where you want to be at. So I definitely say have your own little something. That way you can spend it on what you like without having to dip into your partner's money, or, having conflict over what you're purchasing. So if you have your own little something set aside, then I think that's beneficial to both parties. Number 3, I say it's up to you to either have a joint savings or your own separate savings. Most of the time, I would actually suggest having both. And it probably sounds like a lot of accounts, but if your bank allows you to have multiple accounts without hitting you with banking fees, because that's a no-no, but if you can have multiple accounts or have different accounts in different banks, it's best to separate your funds. That way you know exactly what funds are dedicated for what. So if you have a joint savings account, great, you guys are building together. And then you can also have your own little personal savings account stacking up as well. I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that. I feel like when you're open and honest with your partner about the accounts that you have, I'm not saying hide money or be secretive or anything like that, but I am saying that it's okay to have your own separate funds.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes total sense just because people have different habits, and, you it takes a while, even if you are doing things joint together, for those habits to change or form. If there's new habits that you're trying to do, and in that meantime, you don't want, all this money combined while everybody's trying to learn how they're going to do stuff. You have to kind of compartmentalize money until it becomes a habit, or until you guys decide, okay, we're consciously both going to do this one thing and we can have this one account. So I do agree with that. I think that's great. And it's just like, I'm telling you, I'm really going to set up the part 2, because there's so many other questions that I know and I've had in conversations with other people, especially in this age range, as a lot of us are starting to push, push past like certain income barriers. And then we're also starting to merge finances with the people that we love. So we will definitely do a part 2. I'm already calling it out. And I know people are great about just specifically that. Just what is something that you wish you knew then that you know now?
I wish I knew then that it wasn't always going to be easy. But just to go with it, and that it's going to be okay as long as you keep trying, as long as you keep going, as long as you keep making an effort, it's going to work out. So don't give up. Don't give up, because it's way too easy to give up. It's much harder to keep going, but it's so rewarding.
Consistency. I love that. That's very true. Love that. Okay, Miss Elle, why don't you tell everybody how they can find you? Because clearly you have probably ignited some questions in them and some curiosity about money and budgets and finance. Where can people find you if they need more?
Number one, go to the blog, www.girlfriendsbudget.com. You can find me on Facebook, Girlfriend's Budget. There's all kinds of good stuff going on over there. You can also find me on Pinterest, Girlfriend's Budget. Just Google me. You can find me. Trust me, I'm everywhere. Okay. I'm all over the place.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on the Savvy Young Professional podcast, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.